Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. It's now time for our first topic of discussion for today, and we're going to be talking, of course, about Egyptian women. And this comes as President Fattah al-Sisi has honored Egyptian women and mothers on the Egyptian Mother's Day. And also the President, during his speech, has assigned the state agencies or state institutions to issue and set legislations to protect women. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Maha Mahgoub, a human resources expert. Dr. Maha, first of all, good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Doctor, at the beginning, if you can tell us, what does the Egyptian Women's Day represent in Egypt's history?
Yes, of course, it represents a lot since 1919 when the Egyptian women started the revolution for women empowerment and asking for their rights, for gender equality, and to be represented socially, economically. So since that time, that women just has a good state in the society, and it refers to a lot. And of course, in 1957, it was the first time for women to have a place in the parliament. And of course, nowadays we are talking about women's days, how women empowerment, how is President Sisi empowered and set some legislation to support women and to have a good status in the Egyptian society. So women empowerment is very important. The Women's Day is very important. The women represents more than, it's about 50% of Egyptian society. It's worth to mention that the presidential election, women represented 54% of voting. So therefore, she is very strong and she is a good partner in society along with men.
Dr. Maha, since 1919 till today, how do you assess the progress?
Yes, a lot. We have achieved a lot, especially in 2017. It was the year of women. President Sisi declared that in 2017 it was the year of women, and he just launched the strategic national empowerment for women. Since it's 2070, it was a strategic empowerment to be aligned with the sustainable goals of development. And it was concerned with 5 main pillars: economic, social, political, cultural, and legal. So since that time, all stakeholders were working together for women empowerment in order to set a certain strategy for women empowerment in all aspects in 5 pillars, as I mentioned.
Doctor, also if you can walk us through the main achievements that were accomplished supporting women since President Fattah al-Sisi took the helm of the country till today.
Yes, of course, if we talk about the national strategy for women empowerment, which will be achieved by 2030, it would be one of the Egypt strategy. So we have 5 main pillars, one of them as political empowerment. So now we can see that the women just have 27 seats, 27% of parliament seats, 25% of ministers, and we can see that first governors in Bahira and then in Damietta, first national security consultant to the president is a woman. So in political, she has empowered very well because her votes is very important to Egypt and her effort as well. Socially, of course, there were economic empowerment for women. For example, معاش تكافل وكرامة, decent housing, 100,000 100 million health, and it reached about 11 million Egyptian women. They just got benefit from the presidential initiatives for taking care of Egyptian women health. Socially, just facilitating access to finance and how to get funds and how to start up a new project with medium size and small size enterprises agency here in Egypt, and it has a very advanced level all over the world for economic empowerment for women. As well, legislation that a lot of rules and laws have been issued to protect women against violence, how to assure the gender equality in inheritance, how to protect women from sexual harassment, and so on. So in all aspects, women have been empowered, and she deserves, of course, this.
Yes. Dr. Maha, also, if you can tell us about the role of the government institutions, and namely, of course, the National Council of Women in supporting the role of women in society and empowering them, and so on and so forth.
Yes. The main governmental area which represent women is the National Council of Women, and since the presidency launched the strategic plan or strategic objectives of women empowerment in 2017, so the president of National Council of Women, Dr. Maya Morsi, just set aligned the strategy to be achieved with the sustainable goals of development. About 175,000 women participated in this strategy, how to implement or to achieve this strategy, aligned with the 180 civil society all over Egypt, governorates, how to have offices representing the National Council of Women all over the Egypt Council, for protecting women, for anti-violence, combat against violence, how to protect women from sexual harassment, poor women, vulnerable women, and how to protect them.
Dr. Maha, in your opinion, what are the major challenges that are currently facing Egyptian women? And how to overcome these challenges, of course.
The biggest challenge is, although we are talking about women empowerment, but norms, traditions, and cultures in some areas in Upper Egypt or maybe in rural areas, so which prevent women to have education, to have her rights, maybe in inheritance. We can see a very big problem in Upper Egypt, so women cannot inherit or take her rights to inherit her rights or something like this. So the norms and the traditions are the biggest challenges for women, but by setting the strategy of women empowerment and how to get rid of all obstacles and the challenges which face women, so maybe we can get rid of all these obstacles. Politically, maybe the women does not have the financial funds in order to promote their voice for parliament elections or something like this. So she is not equivalent to men. But it's worth it to mention that Egypt reached the first ranking all over the world by the United Nations by gender equality in private sector and governmental sector.
Dr. Maha, speaking about the private sector and UN and the agencies, development partners, what do you think is the role in promoting the rights of women and supporting women in reaching their full potential in all domains?
Yes, I think international organizations nowadays they are playing an important role in supporting governments and NGOs. So they have certain projects which empower women, and they address the most specific needs for marginal women, even it's social or economic one. We have women empowerment, economic empowerment, how to teach women small projects or micro projects to be empowered economically, as she is playing an important role aligned with men.
Yes, and we can find even women taking care or supporting the household.
Yes, it's worth to mention that more than 30% of Egyptian women are household women. So it's very important to empower women economically, to train her how to get her rights and how to be independent. And I think that before when I was young, so I did not see such empowerment as support from government NGOs United Nations and so on. But now we have a lot of initiatives from United Nations agencies, the international organization, government, NGOs in Egypt. All of them are supporting women.
One of the main barriers, as you have kindly mentioned, is the cultural norms or the traditions, the grassroots. How can we address this challenge in order to empower women?
By raising awareness, the NGOs plays an important role in supporting governments, and it's worth mentioning that more than 50,000 NGOs all over Egypt, and all of them maybe they can have certain programs for training and capacity building for women, raising their awareness about the women's rights, supporting her socially, economically, how to get her rights. So it's very important with the NGO because they have more access than the government to reach women and to have a positive impact on their thoughts, traditions, norms, and everything. So they might change the norms and traditions of some areas.
Dr. Maha, what about the role of religious leaders here? Do you think they have to play a role?
Yes, here in Egypt, we have a high percentage of religious people, and maybe some people that are followed by key persons of religious people, and we thank our God that we have now normal situation of thoughts and how to inject good ideas and beliefs, manners towards people. So they are playing an important role towards women, society, how to have peace, how to men is aligned with women to cooperate together in a decent life.
What about Dr. community mobilization, going on the ground and talking to people and raising awareness about the women's rights and the malpractices that might be existing and the negative repercussions of these practices? How important do you think working on the ground and talking to people, how effective do you think this is?
There are many initiatives by the National Council of Women. It's called Knocking the Door, and they have reached most of Egyptian governors. So they have raised awareness by knocking the doors of all women, just raising awareness how to be empowered, how to have the rights, how to protect them from violence and from sexual harassment and so on. So the National Council of Women is playing an important role for raising awareness among Egyptian society, especially for women, and they reach women by knocking their doors and going by some representatives of National Council of Women. They go to ladies in their home and they maybe talk with them and just to raise awareness about their rights.
Doctor, also your expectations for the future gains for Egyptian women in light of President Fattah al-Sisi's calls for new legislative laws targeting women.
Yes, it's promising. It will be a promising future for women, especially President Sisi just said criminalizing the protection of women's rights in some areas such as Upper Egypt. So as we know that women cannot get her inheritance rights equal to men or something like this. So it's criminalizing the people who prevent women to take her inheritance rights. The future will be promising for women, as we mentioned that we have a strategy for women empowerment to be achieved in 2030. This is a good strategy, and we have observatory center to monitor the achievement of this strategy step by step. And of course, we have annual reports addressed to the United Nations and other entities. And it's worth to mention that we have achieved the first status all over the world. That Egypt, for example, during the coronavirus, Egypt just set certain rules for women empowerment, how to protect her. They set 165 rules for women empowerment, how to protect her during the coronavirus.
Dr. Maha, also, what message does it send President Fattah al-Sisi honoring women on their day, the Egyptian women? What does this message send to all the Egyptian women out there?
Actually, it's very enthusiastic and motivated message to women. And he mentioned that the role of women, which support the all life aspects, and he set some initiatives and some recommendations to most of stakeholders. Just for example, in the Central Bank of Egypt, just he recommended or directed the Central Bank of Egypt how to facilitate access to finance for women, to empower her. He asked for the Ministry of Solidarity, how to have a good life, a decent life by takaful karama, and to facilitate nurses for women. Ministry of Planning, how to generate more leaders for Egypt. Small and medium-sized enterprises agency, how to support women in getting more projects, self-employed, and how to facilitate economic empowerment. A lot of recommendations have been arised during the last speech of President Sisi, which support women, and he declared that the important role of Egyptian women.
Yes. Dr. Maha, also I would like to stress on, once again, on the role of the National Council for Women, and it's on the central level and also on the district level, the importance of having on-ground activities, knocking doors, as
Yes.
The initiative that you have mentioned, and the importance of this in improving the status quo of women, despite the progress, of course, that has been made.
Yeah, it's worth to mention that the president of National Council of Women, Dr. Maha just got award Woman of Decade from India, and she is really playing an important role in implementing or in getting action plan for Egyptian strategy for women empowerment to be aligned with the sustainable goals of development. So they have many roles and many achievements which protect women against violence and from sexual harassment. They have offices all over the Egyptian governorates just for complaints. If any woman just face any violence, or maybe she cannot take her rights, so maybe she can complain. She has shelters or maybe hosting centers all over Egypt for those women who cannot find shelter. They have women empowerment. They're raising awareness, and they have observatory center to monitor the achievement of action plan of the strategic plan, which have been declared in 2017. So they are playing an important role and aligning with all ministers in order to achieve and to protect women and to empower women.
Dr. Maha, as we're almost wrapping up, would like to know your closing remarks and a message, of course, an important message on this occasion that you'd like to send to all the Egyptian women and mothers out there.
Yes, I'm so happy because of the all initiatives and supports we get from the president, from government, from all international organizations for women. And the Egyptian women are very strong enough. She can be a housewife, working woman, a mother, everything. So she is very strong to achieve her goals and to have a certain career planning, career achievement. That of course will happen in support with the government rules, regulations, and strategy for women empowerment. So I'm so pleased about the future of women empowerment under the President Sisi.
Yeah, also I'd like to know your remarks about the comments made by the First Lady on this occasion.
Yes, of course. The First Lady just initiative a lot of supports for women, for children, and she is really, we are so proud of First Lady Mrs. Intisar Sisi, and she, of course, supporting hand by hand women on all aspects.
Yes. Dr. Maha, we really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for being with us on The Breakfast Show. Dr. Maha Mahgoub, Human Resources Expert, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome. And have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
And dear viewers, we move on to a quick break and then be back to resume the remaining segments of The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.